Let me tell you about Adaeze Okonkwo, a woman who built her life around one decision she made at 14. She decided she would never fall in love. Yes, it was that simple. She made a promise to herself the night her father drove out of their home in Enugu and never returned. She watched her mother stand in the kitchen, not crying or shouting, just standing there like someone had turned off a light inside her. Little Adaeze told herself, never, not me, not ever. She kept that promise for 17 years. By the time our story begins, Adaeze is 31. She is sharp, successful, and completely alone by choice. She's a senior associate at Coker and Briggs Associates, one of the largest law firms in Lagos. She has a penthouse on Lagos Island and a wall around her, so thick that men stopped bothering to knock. She was fine with that, more than fine, in fact. She was proud of it. Then her phone rang at 11:47 on a Tuesday night, and everything changed. It was her aunt Ngozi, her mother's older sister. The woman never called that late. Adaeze knew something was wrong before she even said hello. Your mother is asking for you, Auntie Ngozi said. Her voice is quiet and tired. She's been asking about a husband, Ada. She says she cannot rest until she sees you settled. I'll come this weekend, Auntie. I have a filing deadline. Adaeze, the doctor says she has maybe 2 months, maybe less. Please just come. After that call, Adaeze stood at her window, staring at Lagos below her. 40 floors down, the city was doing what it always did. Downfall buses honking, someone selling something at midnight. She pressed her hand flat against the glass and breathed. Her mother was dying. She had known that for 6 months. What she hadn't known, what nobody had told her, was that her mother's last wish, the one thing keeping her going, was to see her daughter married. Adaeze needed a husband to present to her mother. She had to be convincing enough to fool a woman who had known her since before she could walk. She stood at the window for a long time, thinking and going through her options one by one, crossing them off until one name was left. She did not like that name, but it was the only one that made sense. The next month, she was standing outside Emeka Briggs' office door at 8:03 a.m. You need to understand something about Emeka Briggs. He was the son of the firm's senior partner. He was tall, calm, ridiculously good-looking, and completely uninterested in Adaeze, in a way that had annoyed her since they first met. They had been at this firm together for 3 years, competing for the same cases, the same clients, and the same corner office that was still empty on the fourth floor. He had taken the Okafor merger deal right from under her and smiled during the partners' meeting. She had never forgiven him for that smile. So yes, she hated him a little, in a professional way. He came around the corner and stopped when he saw her. Okonkwo. His eyes narrowed slightly. You never wait outside anyone's door. I need 5 minutes. Close the door. He looked at her for a moment, assessing the situation before stepping in. Then he pushed the office door open and held it for her. She walked in without saying thank you. She stood in front of his desk and laid it all out. How her mother was sick, the need for her to get a fake husband, and if he could be the husband, and a clean end when it was over. In return, one professional favor of his choosing, within ethical limits. She presented it as she would a case, no emotion, just the facts. Emeka sat with his hand clasped on the desk, listening to every word. His face revealed nothing. When she finished, the silence in the room was so intense she could hear the air conditioning. Why me? He finally asked. Because you want leverage over me. This gives you that. We both get what we want and know exactly where we stand, no confusion. You think everything I do is about leverage, isn't it? Something flickered behind his eyes. She couldn't quite read it. Then he said, and your mother, does she know you don't believe in love? That question hit differently. She held herself very still. My mother, she said carefully, believes in it enough for both of us. He nodded slowly, leaning back in his chair. All right, Daisy, I will do it. She blinked. He had used her first name. In 3 years, he had never called her by her first name. It was always Okonkwo, always professional, always distant. She didn't know why hearing it now felt like something she wasn't prepared for. She picked up her folder. We are clear. This is a contract, nothing more. No feelings, no complications. We do what we need to do, and when it's over, we go back to exactly what we are. And what are we? He asked. Colleagues, she replied firmly. He almost smiled. Of course. She walked out, closing the door behind her. In the corridor, she told herself she felt nothing, just relief, that was all. She didn't look back. Behind her closed door, Emeka Briggs sat very still for a long time, staring at the space where she had stood. His jaw was tight. His eyes were considering something his face wasn't ready to reveal. He knew this would cost him. He agreed anyway. And that right there was the first thing Adaeze should have paid attention to. It started with dinner, 2 days after the agreement. They met at a restaurant on Victoria Island to go over the ground rules. His choice of place, which irritated her. He picked a quiet spot with good lighting and better food, which irritated her more because she couldn't complain about it. She sat across from him with her notepad out. Yes, she brought a notepad and got straight to business. These are the ground rules, she said. In public, we are warm, but not excessive. No pet names. Hand holding is fine, nothing more. I control what we say about how we met. My uncle Chidi will try to interrogate you. He does it to everyone. Just be vague and keep moving. Emeka was looking at the menu, calmly, as if she hadn't just handed him a briefing document in a restaurant. You look like you are cross-examining the menu, he said. I'm serious, Emeka. So am I. The best soup here is excellent. Do you want some? She stared at him. Are you listening to me? Yes. Warm, but not excessive. No pet names. Uncle Chidi, I've got it. He looked up. What do we say when people ask how we fell in love? We say it happened slowly, she said. Years of working together. Something changed. We realized it. It's simple enough that people will believe it. He was quiet for a moment, then, that's not completely made up, you know. Her eyes snapped up. Don't. I'm just saying. Briggs. Emeka, he said. Patience as a teacher. You are engaged to me now. The surname thing will raise questions. She hated that he was right. She hated how easily he said it, how unbothered he was by all of this, while she was sitting here with a notepad and a knot in her stomach. Fine, Emeka. The name felt different in her mouth. Just don't read anything into the cover story. It's fiction. We are colleagues performing a role. He nodded. Then after a pause, I'm sorry about your mother, Ada. I mean that. She hadn't expected that. The sincerity of it caught her off guard and she had no prepared response. She looked down at her notepad and said nothing, which was the closest thing to thank you she could manage. She left that dinner thinking she was in control. She was not. She just didn't know it yet. 3 days later, they went to see her mother. She had not prepared for what Emeka did when he walked into that room. He went straight to her mother's bedside, pulled the chair close, and took her hands in both of his. Not quickly, not awkwardly, gently. The way you hold something you know is precious. Mrs. Okonkwo, he said, and his voice was warm in a way Adaeze had never heard from him before. Adaeze has told me so much about you. Is it true you were the best debater in your faculty at Nsukka? Her mother's eyes went wide. Then she smiled, a real smile. The first real smile Adaeze had seen on her face in months. Eh? She told you that? That one doesn't talk about me to anyone. No. She talks about you more than she realizes, Emeka said. Adaeze, sitting in a corner chair, opened her mouth and quietly closed it. Her mother started talking about Nsukka in the 70s, about a dress she had sewn herself for a faculty dinner, and the zip that split during the welcome speech. She laughed, telling it, a full, real laugh that filled the room, and Emeka laughed with her, leaning forward, asking questions, genuinely interested, not performing, but actually present. Adaeze watched it all from her corner. Her mother, who had been too weak to hold a proper conversation for days, was now smiling and alive. Her hands were moving, her voice had color in it again. Because of this man who had no reason to be kind, who was only here because of a contract, who owed her mother absolutely nothing, and was sitting there making her feel like the most interesting person in Lagos. Adaeze didn't know what to do with that feeling. She had no folder to put it in. In the car park after, she walked beside him in silence. Then she stopped. You didn't have to do that, I know. It wasn't part of our agreement. I also know that. She studied his face, looking for something. The angle, the strategy, the reason behind it. He met her eyes because she is your mother and she's sick and she wanted someone to listen to her. He said it like it was the most simple thing in the world. That's all. She turned away before he could see what her face was doing. She drove home. She told herself over and over, gratitude is not the same as weakness. A kind gesture is not a reason to lower your guard. She almost believed it. Almost. The engagement party was 3 hours away. Adeze showed up at his place in Lekki early to go over their talking point. He opened the door in a plain white t-shirt and joggers, and it smelled faintly of fried plantain. And for exactly 4 seconds, Adeze forgot to be hostile. You cook? She said. It came out like she was accusing him of something. I eat, he said simply, stepping aside to let her in. Cooking is how that happens. She stepped inside and stopped. She had expected his apartment to be filled with expensive art and furniture, choosing to impress. Instead, she found books, real books, paperbacks with folded corners, stacked everywhere. A record player in the corner, actually spinning, some quiet jazz filling the air, a big window with a view of the lagoon, and the morning light coming in gold and easy, like it had nowhere else to be. The apartment felt like someone actually lived in it. She stood there and thought, I had the wrong idea about you. And that thought scared her more than she expected. Sit, he said, from the kitchen. I'll get you food first, then we can go over the talking points. I'm not hungry. You haven't eaten today. How would you know that? Because you walked in here with the energy of someone running on coffee and stubbornness. He set a bowl of fish stew and rice on the kitchen top in front of her. Eat. She sat. She took one spoonful just to prove she was not being told what to do. Then another. Then she stopped pretending and ate the whole bowl. The food was extraordinarily warm and deeply flavored, the kind that sits in your mind for a long time. He noticed. He said nothing. That's quiet. That's restraint. It got under her skin more than any compliment could have. The party was at his family compound in Ikoyi. 200 people. A live, high live band, mango trees strung with lights, and a cake. A whole cake that said Ada and Emeka, finally in good icing. When Adeze saw that cake, she felt the ground shift a little. Finally, like the whole world had been waiting for this. Like the lie was so well dressed it had forgotten it was a lie. She stood at the corner holding a glass of drink, doing what she always did at social events, watching from a safe distance. Emeka appeared beside her, looking like a man who had just survived a particularly aggressive round of questioning. Your Uncle Chidi asked about my net worth, he said. What did you say? I said I was comfortable, he asked. Comfortable how? Generator or solar panel? And then he tried to hold the laughter, but couldn't stop the laugh that escaped. That's Chidi for you. He also told me you once argued the teacher into giving you extra marks on a test you never wrote. I was young and needed to pass the test. Emeka laughed. properly this time. Then his mother appeared out of nowhere like she had been waiting behind a bush. Emeka, Ada, why are you standing here like security guards? The band is playing. Oh yeah, go and dance before I embarrass you both. Everyone turned to look at them. Adaeze felt the high heat of all those eyes. Emeka turned to her, and his expression was gentle. Your call, he said. He didn't push, he just waited. She put her glass down and took his hand. They moved to the dance floor. The band was playing something slow and old, the kind of high life that sounds like it came from a different Lagos. Soft and calm. Emeka's hand rested at the small of her neck, not tight, just present. Steady. She kept her spine straight, kept her face composed. She was performing. She was good at performing. Then he leaned in close, his voice low and just for her. She's watching you, Ada. Your mom. She looked so happy. Adeze's eyes went to the edge of the compound. There she was, her mother, in a wheelchair, wrapped in a blue gilly, watching them with the softest expression Adeze had ever seen on a human face, like everything she had ever prayed for was happening right in front of her. Adeze felt something in her heart, a feeling she had no name for and no place to put. Don't, she whispered. Her voice came out smaller than she meant it to. Don't what? Don't make it mean something. This is a performance, we agreed. He was quiet for a moment. The music moved around them. Okay, he said softly. Just okay. No arguments, no pressure. He didn't pull away and he didn't push forward. He just stayed. She did not pull away either. That night, back in her apartment, Adeze stood at her window and did what she always did when she was scared. She made her list. Every reason love was dangerous. Every example she had seen of it going wrong. Every argument for why she was right to keep the wall up. The list was still there, but it felt thinner than before. Like pages had been quietly removed while she wasn't paying attention. She went to bed telling herself she was fine, but she was not fine. She lost a case on a Wednesday, the Adeyemi matter. 8 months of work, late nights, cancelled dinners, weekends spent buried in documents. A client she had believed in so much, it became personal, which was always a mistake and she knew it and did it anyway. The judge ruled against her at 4 p.m. At 4:06, Adeze was in the stairwell of the Lagos High Court building. Concrete walls, no windows, no one around, with her back flat against the wall and her briefcase on the floor beside her. Not because she was falling apart. She wasn't. She was just existing for a moment without an audience, without the marks, just breathing in a stairwell like a normal person who had had a terrible day. She had not cried in 11 years. She was not about to start now, but the feeling was enormous, pressing against her from the inside, heavy and hot, looking for a way out. Then the door above her opened. She straightened immediately, shoulders back, face closed, ease of training, faster than thought. The maker came down the stairs. He had been at the same building for a different case. Pure coincidence. The kind that Lagos sometimes throws at you when you least want it. He stopped when he saw her. He looked at her face. The old unguarded picture she was trying to flatten, and she didn't look away from it. He came down from the rest of the stairs and stood beside her against the wall. He said nothing. Not a word. Not I'm sorry. Not it's okay. Not you win the next one. He just stood there, close enough that she could feel the warmth of him, and said absolutely nothing at all. 3 minutes passed, maybe 4. The city hummed through the concrete. She breathed, she stayed, and somehow, that was the safest she had felt in years. She turned to look at him. He was already looking at her, not with pity, not with analysis, with something quieter and more permanent that she did not have a word for. You don't have to stay, she said. I know. This isn't in a contract. I know that. She exhaled slowly. I should have pushed the procedural angle harder in the second hearing. I got distracted by the merits and Ada, I'm talking. You are turning pain into an analysis, he said gently. It doesn't help. I've tried. She looked at him. You have lost the case. Two, one of them badly. I sat in my car for 40 minutes after. You never told anyone you use stairwells. She almost smiled, almost. We can't both use stairwells. That's too much coincidence. Lagos is a small city when it wants to be. The silence between them was different now. Less tense, more honest. Then he said, can I say something? You're going to say it whether I agree or not. True. Turn to face her fully. What your father did, that was in love. That was the absence of it. Love is not what hurt your mother. The living hurt her. The love was the good part. You have been running from the wrong thing for 17 years, Ada. The word hit her like a verdict she had not been prepared for. She was 14 again for one sharp second, standing in the kitchen, watching the car go, watching her mother's face go still and empty, making a decision. Never, not me. You don't know what I watched, she said quietly. Then tell me. She looked at him. He was not leaning away from this. He was not making it comfortable or easy. He was just present, asking, waiting. So she told him about the kitchen in Enugu, about her mother standing there lonely, about the silence that followed afterwards, about the promise she made to herself that night and kept for many years. When she finished, he was quiet for a while. Then, has it kept you safe? She opened her mouth, closed it. That question had no good answer, and they both knew it. I don't know how to do this, she said finally. Neither do I, he said. But for what it's worth, I've been falling for you for 2 years. Not because you're easy, because you are not. Because you are the most relentless person I know. And I stopped being able to choose any other person a long time ago. Something gave way inside her. Not loudly, just quietly, the way a long-held breath finally releases. She picked up her briefcase, smoothed her jacket, walked out of the stairwell into the hard white Lagos afternoon without looking back. That night, she sat on a sofa and she let herself feel it, all of it, the fear and the warmth and the terrifying possibility of it without arguing herself out of it. It was the briefest thing she had done in 17 years and nobody saw it, but she knew. Daisy sat with her mother on a Sunday afternoon, holding her hand, and she felt to leave so deep it was almost painful. I like him, her mother said, out of nowhere, not even looking up from the magazine in her lap. Mama. I said I like him. Don't mama me. In that tone, she turned a page. He has good character. The quiet kind that doesn't need to show off. That kind is rare. Adeze said nothing. Her mother looked up with those sharp, knowing eyes. The eyes that had been reading Adeze's face since she was a baby and went very still. You are afraid. I'm not afraid. Adeze Chizumokunku, her mother called. Adeze stared outside the window because it was easier than looking at her mother. I watched what happened to you, Mama, she said quietly. I was there. I saw how you were after he left. I saw what loving him cost you. I promised myself I would never. Stop. The word was firm, not angry, just firm. Her mother put the magazine down. She turned and held Adeze's face in both her arms. Listen to me, she said. Your father leaving was the worst thing that ever happened to me. I will not pretend otherwise, but Ada, I survived it. I raised you. I got up every morning and I lived. And do you know what I kept from those years with him? It's not the pain, nor was it the shame. I kept the memories of laughing in this man's arms. The joy I had before it went wrong. That was real. Nobody can take that from me. Her eyes were bright and steady. The love did not break me. The betrayal hurt. Those are two different things, Ada. Don't confuse them. And don't you dare build a prison for yourself and call it wisdom. Adeze felt something give way. Deep inside, somewhere she didn't even know she had been holding tight. It wasn't a sudden collapse. It was more like when you have been carrying a bag for so long, you forgot it's there. And then you put it down and your whole body sighs. She sat with her mother for another hour. They didn't talk much more. They didn't need to. That evening, Adeze drove to Emeka's office building. She knew he would be there. She had known his habit for 3 years. She had been paying attention to this man for 3 years and telling herself, It was just professional awareness. Sitting in that car in the car park, she finally admitted to herself what it actually was. She went upstairs, knocked once, opened the door without waiting, because she had rehearsed this in her head on the drive over. And if she waited for him to say come in, she might talk herself out of everything. Emeka looked up from his desk. He took one look at her face and set his pen down. Adaeze, don't say anything yet, she said. Let me finish first or I'll lose my nerve. He nodded. She stood in the doorway and she poured her heart out. He started with the decision she had made at 14, about how she had kept her heart like a locked door, not even questioning what was on the other side, about how she was not going to be easy to be with. She would argue, she would want to be right. She had 17 years of wars to dismantle, and she had no idea how long that would take. But I know how to be loyal, she said. I know how to show up, and I know how to fight for things that matter. She looked at him. You matter to me, Emeka. That is honestly the most terrifying sentence I have ever said out loud. And I said it anyway. So she stopped, waited, heart hammering. He stood up from his desk slowly, crossed the room, stopped right in front of her. He reached up and touched her face. Just one hand, just her cheek, with such careful gentleness that something in her chest cracked wide open. You think I don't know what I'm signing up for? He said. Ada, I've sat across from you in board meetings for 3 years. I have watched you argue senior partners into corners, talk in circles around people twice your age, and once eat 2 bowls of my fish stew and pretend you weren't impressed. I know exactly who you are. She laughed. She couldn't help it. I was being polite. You had 2 plates. The stew was fine. Adaeze. It was very good, okay. It was very good. This isn't the contract anymore, she said quietly. No, he said. This is everything else. They got married 9 months later. Her mother danced until midnight in heels she had bought specifically for the occasion and refused every single offer to sit down. The high life band was loud and the trees were strung with lights, and the whole compound in Ikoyi smelled like jollof rice and joy. Emeka's father cried during the toast and tried to hide it behind his handkerchief badly. Uncle Chidi gave a speech that was wonderful, and at the end looked directly at Emeka and said, My friend, God be with you. The whole crowd roared. Adaeze stood at the middle of it all, holding her husband's hand, watching the beautiful, noisy chaos of life she had almost talked herself out of. She felt the warmth of light, the music in her chest, his hand steady in hers, and she thought, I was so close to missing this. Emeka leaned down. What are you thinking? I'm thinking I was wrong, she said, about everything. Not everything, he said. You are right about the teacher. Your teacher was definitely wrong. She laughed so hard she had to lean into him. He held her, still smiling, and the high life played on. And somewhere in the compound, her mother was dancing in those heels like she had all the time in the world. Lagos blazed outside the compound walls, loud and golden and relentless as always. But in there, in that small circle of light and people who love each other, Adaeze Okonkwo, the woman who built a wall around her heart at 14 and lived behind it for many years, finally let it come down. Not because she stopped being afraid, but because she chose him anyway. And that, if you ask me, is the whole point of loving someone.